Hello parents of rising 6th grade students. It's that time of year again, shopping for new clothes and school supplies, reading summer reading assignments in a week, even though you had all summer, planning what you're gonna do once the kids are out of the house again. That's right, it's almost time for a new school year. We are just about a week away from a new year, and we couldn't be more excited here at the Student Ministry of West Franklin for all that that's gonna bring. We're especially excited that this year, your students will be stepping out of elementary school and into middle school, a whole new, exciting, and maybe a little frightening world. And as you prepare for life with a new middle school student, we here at West Franklin want to partner with you in encouraging your 6th graders to live life with Christ. That's why we're so excited to open the doors of the student ministry to your students. Now, there's some changes and new information that come with stepping into this new world. So I wanted to make a video to give you a brief orientation of all things students. But before we step into what student ministry at West Franklin looks like, we need to ask the question, why should we do student ministry at all? You might be wondering, wouldn't it be better for my student to come into worship with me as a family? Won't they benefit from Matt's preaching as well? And the answer to both is a resounding yes. Absolutely, we want your students worshiping with you as a family. Absolutely, they can benefit from Matt's preaching. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but here's what I need you to know right now. The ages between 6th and 12th grade are a unique and formative time in everyone's lives. Your students are for the first time beginning to wrestle with questions about their identity. Who am I? Their worth. Does anyone care about me? Their purpose. What was I made for? Their relationships. How do I do life with other people? And their beliefs. What do I believe? And that's just scratching the surface. Now, students are at a critical moment in their lives, and because of that, we believe that surrounding them with other teenagers wrestling with the same questions, growing together, and learning from older believers equipped with the curriculum to address these questions is integral to their journey with Jesus. Now, here's the amazing part. The gospel of Jesus Christ speaks right to the heart of all of their most important questions. Our goal here as a student ministry is to see students build their lives around the gospel, understanding that God has called them into a love relationship so that they will step into the story that He is writing and become an answer to the mission of Jesus, to take the radical and redemptive love of Christ into the world. And what we found is that as students walk this journey with Jesus, the gospel begins to answer their biggest questions. So when students leave here after the 12th grade, our prayer is that they will leave with a firm grasp of what it means to live out the gospel in relationship with Jesus, no matter where He takes them. And for us, we have a 4-part strategy that guides everything we do toward that end. Now, the first part of that strategy is worship. We want students involved in rhythms of worship personally and corporately with other believers. Now, I want to pause here to answer a question you might have, which is, how am I supposed to worship with my student if they're in the student hour? Well, the ideal rhythm on a Sunday morning for every family here at West Franklin is that at 9:30, your child or your student would be involved in discipleship activities while you are plugged in serving with the body of Christ somewhere during the 9:30 hour. And then at 11 o'clock, you can all gather together and worship together at our 11 o'clock service. That would be the ideal rhythm that sets up the opportunity for your student to be plugged in to community with other teenagers, but also be able to worship corporately with you as a family. And that leads me to the second part of our strategy, which is belong. We want students to belong to gospel-centered community, and that's what the student ministry here offers. It's community with other believers growing together. Now that leads me to the third part of our strategy, which is journey, which basically means growing to be like Christ. So in the student ministry, that happens through one-on-one discipleship relationships with leaders who are vetted and background checked and equipped to be able to do this. That happens through small group settings like life groups or house groups, and through large group settings like on Wednesday nights. It also happens through their own personal spiritual walk and home discipleship, where you as the parents are leading out in the home in the spiritual life of your family. And last but certainly not least is move. This is where students take what they're learning here and go out and do this. We encourage them to do that through sharing and showing Christ in their own everyday lives, and also participating in specific catalytic missional opportunities that we have here throughout the year at the Student Ministry of West Franklin. So that's just a little bit about our structure and strategy behind how we do things, why we do things. Now I want to give you a little information about some changes you might notice in the student ministry. Coming out of the children's ministry, there's a lot more freedom here in the student area. So we have some things that you might notice are a little different. One is you don't have to check in your student anymore at the kiosks outside. You're probably used to doing that, but from now on, you can just send your students straight into the student room. We take care of roll ourselves and life groups. Second is you don't have to pick up your student from their classroom anymore. Now that can be a little overwhelming for some families, so we suggest that families schedule a time and a place that they'll meet their student after service so they know where to go to find each other. And then lastly, there are 5 big rules that we have here in the student ministry. We call them the Big 5, and they guide all that our students know how to do in the student ministry. So here's what they are. They are: show respect, listen, be flexible, have a good attitude, and be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to be doing. And as long as your student follows these Big 5, they're gonna do just fine in the student ministry. So moving on from kind of the rules and regulations, here's some opportunities for your student to connect in the ministry here. Throughout the summer, we have house groups, which are basically Bible studies that meet in homes. And we do 4 of these throughout the summer. It's a great opportunity for students who don't know anybody to start meeting people. Throughout the school year, we have Sunday morning life groups, which meet at 9:30 and are grade and gender specific. And then we have large group sessions, which meet on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock here in the student room. And then once a month on Wednesday, we are going to serve with different ministries, different partners around the Franklin area, which is a really exciting addition we've done this year. And then we also have throughout the year what we call catalytic events. Now these are events that we call catalytic because we want students to go to them, learn, be filled up, grow, and then come home and live differently here. So you'll hear a lot about these. We have a few coming up right now. One is 6th grade escape, which will be in November. It is coupled with fall retreat. It's the 6th grade side of it. This is an awesome chance for students to get to know people. If they haven't met anybody yet, it's an incredibly fun event. It's only overnight, and so it's a good step in the water here. And then we also have Anvil for guys, which will be in the spring, and Snowball for girls, which will also be in the spring. In the summer, we have Mission 615, which is our middle school mission trip, which takes place right here in Nashville. And then we have Beach Camp. We'll give you more information about that as it comes, but these events are huge opportunities, not only for your students to grow in their faith, but also to meet other people. Now that's a whole lot of information I've just thrown your way in just a couple of minutes. So before I end, if you have any questions or anything like that, you know you can email me or call me or stop me at church. I would love to sit down and chat about how your student become involved. And I wanted to end on this note. If you as a parent are wondering, how can I best be involved in my student's experience here? We have a couple different ways I want to suggest to you. One is you can serve the student ministry here. We have tons of needs throughout the year, whether it's a home to host us for a fellowship, or whether it's people to plan a group activity, or whether it's becoming a leader in a life group here or on Wednesday nights, or even coming with us as a one-time leader on a catalytic event. We need parents coming alongside, and you would be shocked to see how receptive students are to their parents being involved in these different capacities. I also want to encourage you that the majority of your influence can be best used at home. Your students have 168 hours in the week, and only 2 to 3 of them are right here with us. Without a doubt, the greatest influence on their lives is their home life. So if you want your students to be growing spiritually, the best chance for that to happen is for you to be walking with them through that as a parent. And I want to make some suggestions to you about what your student needs to really effectively facilitate that. They need you to listen to them. Sometimes just to listen to them. What's going on in their lives? What are they asking right now? What are they going through? They need you to be there for them, to know that you will walk with them through anything. It doesn't matter what. They need to have the space of grace. Meaning a lot of the time we force what we want people to be like on them, when right now they just need us to give them space to be who they are and to grow into who God is calling them to be. We need you to be consistently speaking truth into their lives. Now that means gospel truth, and that also means practical wisdom that you have. Your students need to hear this. We need you to be consistently loving them, With the love of Christ, the same unconditional, prodigal, boundless love that Christ gives us, you need to be giving your students. And lastly, they need you to be modeling a life with and in Christ. If you want your student to be growing in relationship with Christ, they need to see you doing that. If you want your student to be passionate and committed to being involved in community, they need to see you doing that. If you want your student to worship with passion and love, they need to see you doing that. You modeling a life with Christ is what moves them into it themselves. So that's all I've got for the orientation video. Like I said, this has been a lot of information, but if you have any questions, you know you can ask me anytime. I am so excited to see your students this Sunday, August 6th at 9:30 service as Promotion Sunday happens, and 6th graders get to first become involved in life groups here at West Franklin. And don't forget that next Wednesday, August 9th, will be our student fall kickoff. We'll be meeting at Jim Warren Park, just across the street from West Franklin, at the Pavilion by the Pond at 6 for a time of just fellowship, hanging out, and setting the tone for this year through worship and the Word. I'm so excited to have your students around and so excited to have you as parents involved in the student ministry here. I'm always available if you ever need anything, and I'm excited for what God's going to do this year.